Some people think power is loud. They think it's dominance. They think it's having the last word. They think it's being seen, heard, or reacted to. But real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need volume. It doesn't need an audience. And it doesn't need permission. Quiet power is what remains when you no longer need to prove anything. Power without noise looks different depending on who's observing it. To insecure people, it feels threatening. To controlling people, it feels unmanageable. To people who rely on performance, it feels confusing. Because quiet power doesn't posture, it doesn't argue for space, it just occupies it. One of the biggest misconceptions about strength is that it must be visible to be real. But the most powerful people you will ever encounter are often the least reactive. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't correct every misunderstanding. They don't respond to every provocation. That's not because they're passive, but because they understand something most people don't. Energy is currency, and they don't spend it recklessly. Quiet power shows up in restraint, in choosing not to escalate, in choosing not to chase, in choosing not to perform strength for people who benefit from your exhaustion. It's knowing when to disengage, not because you're afraid, but because you've outgrown the conversation. People who are loud about their power usually need witnesses. They need reactions. They need confirmation. They need resistance to push against. Quiet power doesn't need friction. It moves whether anyone claps or not. And that's why it unsettles people who rely on chaos to feel relevant. Another thing people get wrong: quiet power is not softness without boundaries. It's softness with teeth. It's compassion paired with clarity, kindness paired with self-respect, stillness paired with decisiveness. You can be gentle and immovable at the same time. You see quiet power in the person who doesn't overshare, doesn't explain their choices, doesn't react to bait, doesn't seek validation before acting. They don't disappear. They simply stop performing. And the moment you stop performing, your power becomes undeniable. This is why people misjudge quiet individuals so often. They mistake calm for weakness, silence for submission, distance for indifference, until they realize too late that the person they underestimated was never powerless. They were regulated. Quiet power also means you don't need to be understood by everyone. You understand yourself. You know your motives. You know your integrity. You know what you will and will not participate in. And that internal alignment removes the need to convince anyone else. When you operate from quiet power, you don't chase respect. It becomes apparent. You don't demand space. It naturally clears. You don't explain boundaries. You enforce them through behavior. Your life becomes the evidence. There's a reason healed people often become quieter, not because they have less to say, but because they've learned silence protects their energy better than words ever could. Not every truth needs an audience. Not every insight needs a platform. Not every battle deserves engagement. Quiet power is choosing peace without apology. It's letting people misunderstand you while you remain intact. It's being unmoved by noise because you are anchored in yourself. And once you experience that level of power, you'll never confuse volume with strength again. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be rooted. If this resonated, sit with it. And if you're moving differently lately, quieter, firmer, more selective, that's not weakness, that's evolution. If you would like to continue the conversation, feel free to subscribe to my channel. On this channel, we discuss topics around jealousy, envy, confidence, boundary setting, and healing from narcissistic abuse. Also, you can follow me on TikTok at AuthorAsh1. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.